comes up in all your action items. There's several things that they'd already been doing, but some things they've gotten better at, and some things we've decided, although it's recommended, we won't do. And then there's some things that we're working on accomplishing. So there's about 4 different categories, and we'll roll those out for you. This morning I met with State DOT and from Hartford, and also from District 2, which is the Norwich people. They're in charge of all projects on this side of the world. And the Niantic River Bridge, as you know, will be redone. It's 25 years old, believe it or not. Seems like it was maybe 10 years ago. It's 25 years old. They need to go in and redo it all, paint it, scrape it, and all that. That means underneath, taking up some of our Cheney Park parking area, our boat dock area, and then up top there will be, sometimes they're going to have to close the whole darn bridge, and we're going to have to take that 8-mile detour. It's going to be well coordinated, because of course the emergency personnel go over that sometimes 5, sometimes 10 times a day on a bad day, with ambulance calls, etc. So we will be fully communicative. But what I saw was the contract side saying one thing, and the construction side saying, no, we're not doing this in the winter. This is a summer project. And I'm like, it can't be a summer project. This is a beat. So we're working through that. At the same time, when this is a 2-year project, the second year of that project is when Exit 74 and the ramps project will begin, 2021. That's still slated. Things can change up at the state level. That's a bridge that was supposed to have been done a while ago. It is in a place where it needs to be done. So I don't see it slipping. It's one of those, it's not a wish list. It's a need to. With that would come the ramps. More than likely, maybe they do the bridge first and then put the ramps on that wish list. But that also creates conversation of where that bridge is down here. Because if that bridge is closed and I can't get on 95, because that's a nightmare because of that bridge being redone. What happens? What happens when the bridges are being constructed or we have accidents on 95? Well, that becomes 95. I can't have that on one-lane road or closed. So we're working through those issues. Collective bargaining has begun for police and for the fire departments. Unfortunately, it has not started for UPSU. That's our biggest contract. We're into mid-April, and we don't even have dates on the calendar yet, and their contract expires on June 30th. It doesn't mean much, but it just means a delay and a delay and a delay. The unaffiliated employee agreement, not a contract, is being collated. All the other information is coming together, and we're sitting down and we're going to draft a form that it's legible, that is one resource for the unaffiliated employees that come in and that are working for us now. It's right now some of it's urban legend, and it kind of shows up. Actually, Anna did a great job on that spreadsheet that you had the other night. But it needs to all be in a form that's in people's employment folders, but also at their desks that they can refer to. We're also reviewing the terms of that contract, as we discussed. Because it turned April 1st and we're a beach town, there are dozens of fundraisers and activities that are hitting in spite of the snow. So I'll just run through a couple. April 14th, there's going to be a fundraiser at Old Lyme Country Club. Y'all might want to think about this. It's this Saturday night, Old Lyme Country Club at 7 o'clock. The money raised, it's 100% of your money. I think it's $30 or $35 donation, will go to Theater Under the Shell, the theater group that performs at McCook's for free, but they need money to do that. So that's a fundraiser. There's another jazz fundraiser to benefit the East Lyme band, orchestra band, marching band, all the music groups at East Lyme High School. That's Tuesday of next week. It's in the auditorium. They need to raise some money, and this performing group that's coming is world-class, world travelers. They fill out auditoriums and symphony halls and all that. They come to East Lyme High School do consider supporting that. Earth Day is the 21st. We're going to have a huge little function going on up at the top for kiddies, but also for everyone to celebrate Earth Day. At McCook's 10 to 2. The Boardwalk 5K is on the next day, the 22nd. I'm sure you'll all participate in that. East Lyme Little League opening day. That's always a big deal around here, April 28th. We'll be throwing out the first pitch. May 5th, the Rotary Gala, if you'd support that. The money for the Boardwalk 5K and the Rotary Gala this year will all be dedicated to the Miracle League Field fundraising efforts, and you all know about that. So the Rotary Gala is on May 5th. They've been doing that for 30 years. And they raise all their money on that night, and please support that. There's also another Miracle League fundraiser. It's called Meatballs for Miracles. I think it's, instead of a chili contest, it's going to be a meatball contest, which I'm a big fan of. So, but once you get past your third or fourth one, I'm not sure how you're going to do that. But that's on May 11th, okay? And on May 18th, the senior class is having their fundraising golf tournament. That's the last one I have. I think it's at Pequot. They raise money for their drug-free, alcohol-free party on graduation night, and your support is always welcome on that as well. Obviously, there's tons of things going on, and obviously we've been meeting ad nauseum for the last month, and I don't want to prolong the meeting, but I'll answer any questions you might have.
Questions for our first selectman?
Actually, I do have one. Mark,
Yeah.
From the Board of Selectmen, is there someone ex officio beside yourself who goes over to Board of Education
Yeah.
to give give your information?
It's kind of that. It's that type of report.
Okay.
And yes, we do that every month. We rotate that
Okay.
through the R6. We each get a month.
Okay.
I don't know how that works if there's 6 of us. Yeah, I guess that works. It's
Okay.
12 months. Yeah, we do that.
Okay.
So if I get month of May, they have 2 meetings in May, so
Okay.
I hit it twice. Yeah.
And is there sometimes a financial component to your reports that is helpful, directly helpful to the budgeting of Board of Ed?
I think this guy is brilliant in his discussions tonight, and if nothing else, it's the education piece. I'm not sure that you guys can, well, I said, boy, it'd be great if you can give me that number on January 3rd. I'll get you the budget on the 4th, and then I'll take, Port's warmer than Niantic for a month, but it's just part of it's a process. It's what we do. But I think they would benefit from all the pressures you are in. You, Camille, used a great example the other night about the median, about you're representing all. You live up here, and I do too. But we all have to support everybody in that. And what a difficult job, because we're putting people out of their homes here, and we're putting people out of East Lyme here. Because if we're not giving them the quality, they'll go find it somewhere else. They moved here for the quality. So we all get that. We all get that. No matter where we are on that scale, we represent everybody. Agreed. And we have to. In my letter, and I know one of you referenced it. It's a balance, right? Life is a balance. So it's that balance of, hey, we need more money, because what they're putting together, and I wish y'all had a chance to go see Jeff's. What did you call that at the middle school, in the cafeteria? It was the vision. You had it too.
We did our whole, our 5-year plan, our long-range plan.
And it was all about computers and tablets and how these kids are going to just learn differently going forward. And it might take us more time than other districts because of money and all that. But just this new, you need to be plugged into that as much as they need to be plugged into how we're going to pay for it. Because I definitely saw a clash there that night where you're talking about great vision and great standards, but how do we pay for it? And yeah, I think y'all getting together on that would be wonderful. And so financial component on the regular meetings, I'm not sure. I think when you get into the regular part of your year, I'm not sure if there's tons to deliver. Of course, I deliver all the bad news from the state and all that.
Right.
But
Well, that's important.
But I think this whole relationship thing has gotten better with them coming
That's good.
and y'all working together, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's good. Thanks.
Any other questions? Here are none. We'll move on to Director of Finance.
Good evening. So the regular monthly reports were in your packages. In the month of March, the larger revenues that we collected were our current taxes, tuition from the tuition that comes in. We did receive another portion of the Pequot grant, and we received the telephone tax relief that we get. On the expenditure side, we made our final payment to the library for the year, our final workers' comp payment, our final liability insurance payment, and we did pay the facility rental to Waterford for use of their police station for lockup, and then there were a few other expenditures. I don't know if anyone has any questions on the revenue or expense reports.
Lisa stopped asking the question she used to always ask.
I
Where's
didn't
your
get a chance to ask it yet. Go ahead.
You haven't been asking where her areas of concern
No,
are.
I usually ask.
Okay, go ahead.
But before I get to that, so Anna, on the sheet,
Yes.
could you help me understand you see down on the bottom under encumbrances, it says expenditures per month and compared last year to this year. So we're 1.4 roughly million greater in expenditures per month this year than last year.
Well, it's not per month, it's actually expenditures for the month.
Okay, for the month.
So it's comparing March of this year to March of
Right.
last
Can
year.
you help me understand why there's such a disparity between the 2 years?
Looking at the, I would say it's probably the way that the Board of Ed payrolls fall, because the Board of Ed has biweekly payroll, so if they get paid a third time during the month because
Oh,
of
the way the calendar falls.
and that's about the amount of a Board of Ed payroll, the difference.
Okay, so that would make sense to me. The line right after that, is that what does that mean? Board of Ed per month?
For the month. It's not per the month, it's Board of Ed.
Okay, so what's the difference between those two lines? One says expenditures for the month, and the next one says,
So
is that,
for the month would be combined budget. So for the entire
oh,
budget.
the town and the,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
So it's the way the calendar has fallen out. The second
Right.
line is for the Board of Ed only. The
Correct.
top is combined.
Right.
Perfect, that explains that.
Okay.
Okay, in our, this sheet,
Yes.
what is that thing called? Expenditures to date.
Analysis, whatever.
So, on page 8, I have a few of these to ask you about if I could. On page 8, down into the second block there, service contracts.
Mhm.
So we're almost spent there, 93%. We should be at 75. right?
Well, here's, so if you look there, the 93 expended represents encumbrances plus expended. So we have some encumbrances in that account.
So,
And it's a service contract account, so sometimes it's not like you're spending like 1/12 of it every month.
right, I know they're not all linear
Okay,
burn-offs. That's
okay.
why some of these questions are gonna be obvious, but I don't know how
Okay.
how they burn off for the year. So that's why I want to ask you about a couple. On the next page, the retirement liability line.
Yes.
So did we budget for more retirements than we expected to realize? Is that why we're only at 41%?
Well,
Because that's a chunk of money.
right. But this is the end of March, and we've had actually 2 recent retirement, like in April, there'll be more expended because we've had.
So we'll catch up.
I'm not, and yes, but however, it doesn't mean we'll spend 100% of what we budgeted. When we put, pardon?
We hope not to.
When we put the budget together, unless someone comes forward and absolutely tells us that they plan to
Sure.
retire during the year, we're doing our best to estimate who we think may retire.
Right.
We do have an aging workforce, and we are starting to see, on a more regular basis, people starting to retire. And when, at the end of the fiscal year, when we look at what our unfunded liability is for accrued leave time that we may have to pay out, then it's a scary number. And so, as I said, with people getting up there and it can be at any time, we just thought that it was the right thing to do to begin making a provision for that type of expenditure in the budget.
And that's smart. I just, when I looked at this, given where we are and where we're trying to find places to cut and save, I thought we might want to be mindful of that account. And if there is money not expended there, that's a place that we could not budget for it next year.
And then one other
It's kind
thing,
of a contingency though, isn't it? It's kind of, we put money away in case people retire.
I know.
And yeah, if we
I do
consistently are only at 50%, I agree we should shave it off, but.
It's just, I just wanted to bring it up for us to take a look at, because we're looking under every rock here.
right, and then the other thing is, what we've started to do, and we've been successful, is rather than someone taking 100% of their payout when they leave, we're doing it 25 when you leave, 50 the following July 1st, and then the final 25 the following July 1st. So this way it kind of helps us with the budget as well, rather, because otherwise with the people that have left, we probably would have gone through this and possibly more if we had to pay the full amount out.
Same question on general government, down a little ways. Again, it's a chunk of money.
Oh, legal.
Well, yeah, that too.
It's all legal.
Yeah.
Yes, I was looking at legal ads, general government. I mean, I just kind of scanned here for any big chunks of money that we've underspent. And I didn't go through every single line item to see what was in our budget for next year, but I guess I'm generally asking the question, I know you have the experience and some tribal knowledge and intuition and numbers, I would imagine.
For legal, I look at a 10-year history because, legal fees are very volatile and, they
Right.
kind of go like this. So I do a 10-year analysis and I look at it to the best of our ability, like on a line-by-line basis, and then the overall total expenditures. I do know that in the 18-19 budget, we did make a reduction in the total that we have budgeted in that. Not a lot, but I mean.
You're talking for line 233, right?
I'm just talking for the entire department.
Okay.
And then you also have to remember that when we get billed for legal, we get billed, so like the month goes by and then the following month we get the bill. So in the month of in June, we're actually making 2 payments. So it's kind of like there's a little bit of a lag. It's not like, as you said, a perfect like 1/12 that we're charging every month.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, with the labor accounts, that's dependent upon when we're in negotiations and then any other type of issues that may or may not come up during the year.
Yeah, I was just looking at the one specific general government line, which was kind of a chunk. Again, it was 142,500. We're only at 43% expended. In preparing the budget for next year, it would seem appropriate to just trim that line back. We did, but it just looks like we could trim it some more. And I'm not nitpicking at it, but it is a big chunk of money, and I just sometimes it bears reviewing it again and saying, maybe we could take an extra 10 out of that, which adds up. So
I think we should get you a better number first before you analyze that any deeper, because again, that's it's at least 2 months behind.
this is as of 3/31, right?
Yeah, but because it's legal bills, they wait to the end of the month, then they do the
Right.
legal review, then it comes here, then we talk about the bill, and then it gets paid.
Okay.
So there's at least 2 months where at the end, we're paying at least 2 months worth at the end.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it's a little high this year, but next year,
I'm just pointing it out. If you think the number that's in the budget is the best number we have, then I'm fine with that. I just wanted to point that out. I was also looking at, on the bottom of page 13, the contingency account for fuel and oil. Again, it's a large budget of $192,000. I see we've only expended a little over half of it. I wondered if you had any thoughts on that. I guess I can go to 120. We don't really have a specific
Well, the contingency, remember that contingency is funding that we set aside every year so that if an issue comes up during the year that we hadn't planned for, we have a resource to be able to deal with the issue.
Okay, we actually did drop that account now that I'm looking at it, from 192 to 150 for next year. So it looks like you're ahead of me on that one. That's what I'm guessing. Thanks. Couple more. Thanks for your patience. Grant overtime. I know we talked about this recently, and I couldn't for the life of me retrieve what that was about. I'm on the bottom of page 20, the last item.
What department?
216? Police. So we've expended half of that budget, and again, it's a chunk, 75 grand.
It's a
Okay,
grant.
so grant overtime, what we spend, we get back in grant funds. So, and then the other thing with the grants is that the grants run on a federal fiscal year as opposed to our fiscal year, so they go from like October 1st to September 30th. And so there's kind of like always a lag time. And if you remember in the
Okay,
past.
so it's not gonna burn the way our fiscal year burns.
Right, but, and if you remember in the past, we would wait until we were awarded the grant and then come before the boards to do special appropriations. And what, part of that problem is that then the police had to wait and start, running the grant patrols until after the appropriations process, which takes a month. So then, that's why we started putting this in the budget. And as I said, there's a revenue that goes with it.
You remember the chief said that last year the bottom fell out of grant money, so our current year, but next year I think they're way up. I think they're back up to the highest numbers ever. They're fully funded, there used to be a town had to support 50% or 25%, they're fully funded now.
Okay, I vaguely remember it, but I couldn't pull the details in. Okay, thanks, that's all I have.
John, any questions?
No.
Jason?
Yeah.
Ann?
Yes, just need a little explanation on the revenue account status, page 2 of it. The transportation subsidy, I see that that's up. It was up in our budget book as well, our revenue there. Could you give a little background on that? Since I'm just not remembering.
So that is funding that we get back for all of the trips to the incinerator that we take.
Oh,
There's
okay.
like a formula, and
All right.
then we get a reimbursement.
Okay, thanks. I couldn't recall it. Okay, I remember a little discussion on that, Public Works, okay.
Camille?
Just a little more clarity, please, on the grant overtime for the police, because in the revenue budget, I see that we have budgeted $50,000 for extra duty police fire. Is that what is offsetting the expense, or is that something completely different?
Isn't it DUI revenue?
Mm.
Isn't it listed as DUI revenue?
Yeah, there you go. I see
It's-
it,
it's a-
73, yep, I see it, 73,000, and, okay, thank you. Okay, for education cost sharing, didn't we used to get 2 payments for that every year? And it looks like last November, we got a little, maybe $1.5 million. This January, we got $1.5 million. It seems to be like trickling in.
We will receive, then we get the final payment comes in April. And this year, if you remember, our grants were delayed too. So the receipt of them this year is kind of like off the regular schedule, and then, they kind of caught up with it.
I was just concerned because I saw the money trickling in, and I wasn't sure if we were truly going to get the rest of that
I
balance.
had the same concern.
We're not, that's one of the, that is, so we will get approximately $2.9 million more. So that's one of the revenues, $992,000. So in other words, that was one of the, the revenue adjustments that we took subsequent to the budget.
So you feel confident that's coming in April, and it'll come in a lump sum, and there's,
Real
That's
concern
the
was cash on hand,
expectation.
because
Yeah.
it wasn't coming.
right,
And when it-
Right,
on the regular
exactly.
schedule, and we're-
exactly.
it will come up. That
Okay.
is,
Okay, so in a similar vein, I'm looking at the debt payment from Salem,
Mhm.
which we have not received yet. I mean, is that a one-time payment at a certain time of year?
We did- we-
$86,705.
We did receive that. Yes, it's showing as received.
Okay,
do
sorry,
you
my
have-
bad. I do.
Do you have?
I misread it.
Okay, all right.
I just saw 0 and I'm like, oh, thinking we got 0 of that. Never mind. It's been a long week.
No, we typically bill out half of it in July and then the other half, December, January.
So I see we've got all that. And then no concern with receiving the balance of the tuition from Salem.
Actually, that's one of the accounts that, I'm actually looking that, we'll get about 300,000 in that this year, so it's gonna come in over what we budgeted,
So we budgeted 2.8,
correct?
close to 2.9.
Mm-hmm.
So far, we got 1.9,
Correct.
rounding.
Still need $1 million.
And you're saying we're gonna get 1.3?
About 1.2 more,
Okay.
so we'll be about a little over 200, over projected.
That's nice.
That's good. Two bits of good news tonight.
But, on the other hand, we're struggling with building permits this year.
I see that. That was my next question. So, what caused us to budget so high to begin with? Was that the
Well,
pre-death
again,
of the Costco deal?
Well, again, that, for all of the local revenues, I reach out to the department heads to come up with a projection, and then in addition to that, I keep a 10-year analysis and kind of look at it in different ways and come to an agreement with the department head in terms of what we'll put in the projection for the budget. And that's just market, people, economy driven in terms of, how the permits come in. So,
Okay. And on the expense side, I did take a look at the budget again on the town side. I see that it's very lean, but if there was one item that kind of really stuck out at me, it was that legal budget. And I know if you're looking at trending years, right? A lot of the years in the past, we've had a lot of issues with developers in town incurring large legal bills for that. But
Correct.
we really have nothing going on currently. Would you say that's correct? That we would have to worry about?
well, the big one is.
That you can talk about?
Well, the big one is negotiations.
three of the 4 unions are being negotiated.
Well, that's on a separate line item, though.
Right.
It is, but let's say, for example, we projected, we do our best to estimate, and let's just say our estimate is a little on the low side. Well, we would have the resource within the department to do a transfer to be able to take care of the negotiating expenditures.
On the other side, there's a couple lawsuits that the town is working on right now, and our FOI troubles are getting much worse. Let's just say where he's now suing the town, not just FOI complaints, and that seems to be a regular thing now too. I cut it down a little bit. We talked about where we're gonna find the $50,000. It was talked about, maybe we'll take 5 more out of there. We're gonna be nickel and diamond right through our budget to try to find the 50. I'm gonna try to, we're gonna be doing that. So maybe another 5 out of the general government legal is, I think there's 7 out of there now. Not gonna another 5, might be possible, but we certainly don't want to come up short either, nor do I want to deprive a zoning department that might be going through an appeal, and we always have that Oswegatchie Hills thing that could blow up at any moment.
I guess that's where I was,
Yeah, that's-
that's where my mind was. What's
Yeah.
going on with that? Is there any danger of that flaring up
Yes,
in the next
yes. We're
budget
in,
year?
Where we are with that is he is appealing his sewer assessment. Without getting deep into the weeds here, he said, I want to have a guaranteed I'm using a round number, 100,000 gallons a day of sewer. Of course, we only have a finite amount of gallons in sewer, and he wants to carve out most of what's remaining. So we can't expand it elsewhere in the town 50 years from now, wherever we go. So we said, well, no, you are entitled to a portion thereof, and we came up with a number. He appealed, the judge has gone back and forth, and these are difficult times, but things for the judges to wrap their heads around, apparently. It is now going to the next level of court. Once that's done, he has 2 applications in with the town. He has, he puts one in, and as that's being appealed, he puts another one in. Now that's being appealed. So he has 2 applications in right now.
What's the other than the Oswegatchie Hills?
2 Oswegatchie Hills
Oh, both in that
applications. One
okay.
for one plan, one for another plan. So they're not resolved. And I would suspect that the sewer thing will resolve itself in the next 2 or 3 months, and then we'll be moving on to the application. There was talk about a buyout. I
Right.
said to you
or
guys at
swap.
one point, I got
A
all the
swap
eye
at one
rolls.
point, right?
I got all the eye rolls in the world that night, and it was just, listen, I don't know, what's it worth? Is it worth building another school because we have another 1,000 kids? Worst case scenario, but real scenario, we're talking about 400 acres up there, and he's proposing highly dense housing. But we're not in that place now. We've kind of cut off negotiations. I'll tell you, the Friends of Oswegatchie Hills are working on a philanthropic side. The town might be asked to contribute toward that. Again, we'll have to decide whether that's worth it or not. If we had to come up with $1 million or $2 million to preserve open space forever and guarantee that we wouldn't have a swath of 1,500 homes on the hill. I've been working on this particular developer for 18 years.
Yeah.
Right. And so is Bill.
That was when you were on zoning, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. That's it.
Any other questions? Thank you. Moving on to old business, continuation of deliberations. So I believe what we have left is capital plan. We've closed on the town and the Board of Ed.
So, just a matter of course, we can reopen the town and the Board of Ed, I presume, right? Because we usually do that when we get to the video room. I
When we,
assume we could do that tonight.
when we get to the point that we know what the revenue side is, in the past, we have said that based on revenues not being what we perceive them to be, we did, last year, talk about a new hybrid situation where we started cutting additional funds from both the town and the Board of Ed. Yes, we did.
So I guess what I'm saying is deliberations are not finally closed. Should we tonight wish to bring up more discussion on the town or the Board of Ed side, we could be doing that.
Could we do that now? Yes, we could by process if